too. I'm Tom Shillue in for Greg Gutfeld on this very special edition of Gutfeld. He has an excuse. Let's kick things off with a couple of jokes. The famous Rockefeller Center Christmas tree's been lit and holiday shoppers are filling up Fifth Avenue, but there are other signs the Christmas spirit is alive and well in New York City. For instance, instead of chalk, the police are outlining bodies with festive garlands. Disgraced former Congressman Anthony Weiner is considering a run for New York City Council. Yeah, that means citizens over 18 may once again get to vote for him, and those under 18 might get this in their DMs. Caitlin Clark acknowledged her white privilege in Time magazine. Hopefully, this move will lead to more African Americans having the opportunity to play pro basketball. The Unabomber's brother expressed concerns that alleged assassin Luigi Mangione may have been influenced by Ted Kaczynski. He also expressed concerns that people will always refer to him as the Unabomber's brother. Cher has reportedly fled her Malibu home as wildfires rage nearby. It's a smart move since plastic has a low melting point. A British member of parliament has argued against a proposed law banning marriage between first cousins. One American observer asked, "Why stop there?" Okay, now to my searing monologue. Doom scrolling is a fairly new word, and it is appearing a lot in the news lately, mostly in articles about how to avoid it. Like this one. Wait a minute, isn't rotting our brains a bit much? Even articles about doom scrolling are filmed with doom. This is why I try to approach the news of the day in the spirit of my mentor, Greg Gutfeld. Here was his reaction to the Daniel Penny verdict on Monday. Hooray for Daniel Penny and those heroes who risk everything to help others. And a more than deserved F.U. to Alvin Bragg. That's how you do it, Greg. And kudos on only swearing once, Greg, unlike Dana Perino. This is the way Greg does it. You look for the good in the news, but you don't ignore the bad stuff. Just don't get bogged down. Call out the BS and move on. This week started with great news on two fronts: Daniel Penny's acquittal and the capture of the infamous suspected CEO assassin. The opening of A Tale of Two Cities reads, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." I quote from the Dickens classic because sometimes it feels we're living in a tale of two narratives. After the news broke on both those big stories, the inevitable social media opinions followed suit. On the Daniel Penny acquittal, New York City Council member Tiffany Caban said this: Jordan Neely deserved better than the violence of being denied access to stable housing and health care, and then dehumanized for it. But then astute readers gave her a bit of a fact check via X's Community Notes feature. They pointed out how Neely got a plea deal after punching a 67-year-old woman in 2021, and actually did get free access to housing and health care. But he bolted from the facility after just 13 days. And like clockwork, Tiffany locked down her X account so only her followers can see her posts. Too bad for us. Then, after the made-for-social media outburst from Luigi Mangione while in police custody, we have a lot of armchair Marxists celebrating the murder of a CEO as kind of payback for capitalism. Meanwhile, you've got people hawking merchandise glorifying an accused killer. And then there's the always rational journalist Taylor Lorenz on Piers Morgan's show.
Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy.
No, definitely not empathy. But something with path in it. Sociopath? Psychopath? Pathetic, maybe. But it seems that it's not difficult to find people sympathetic to the idea of executing CEOs. Right, Liz Warren?
Look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of UnitedHealth. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
So is violence bad or not? I guess it all depends on who's getting hurt. I don't know where the line is for Liz, but I'm assuming it stops before you get to politician. And then you've got talking heads on CNN who lamented the suspect's newfound fame, and a host who couldn't resist asking the graphics guy to, quote, take down the banner so they could see Luigi's abs.
The man accused of killing UnitedHealthcare's CEO going viral. Images of Luigi Mangione seem to captivate the attention of online masses.
So much of the clips we were watching at the top of this segment are driven by the fact that this is an attractive
we got to
person.
drop the banner to show why.
The guy, he did drop the banner. When you see the reactions to these two very different events, it can give one pause. We have people calling for vigilante violence after the Penny verdict, and we're seeing an assassin celebrated on social media. One might think, how can I possibly be sharing the planet with these people? But the evidence is everywhere that most people see through this foolishness, and that is a reason to celebrate. People like Taylor Lorenz are outliers. Just like the trolls who are talking about how cute this newly famous murderer is, those same people would be calling out his toxic masculinity the second he criticized Obamacare. You can look at these posts online and think the modern world has absolutely lost its mind. But we have to remember, this has happened before. We do romanticize killers. It happened with the Menendez brothers, the Boston bombers. Even John Dillinger had a fan club back in the 1930s. People are captivated, titillated by murder. But in the end, most of us can tell the difference between a hero and a villain. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She spent more time on the sidelines than Colin Kaepernick, host of the Michelle Tafoya podcast, Michelle Tafoya. Progressives avoid him like he's a student loan payment. Comedian Lou Perez. This is the first time she can't fit in kids' clothes. New York Times best-selling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tim. He's far too tall for mistletoe. New York Times best-selling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Tyrus. That's it. Okay, Michelle, what do you think? Are you at all surprised that there are people out there who are celebrating this guy?
I am. I just am. He killed someone. We see it on video, right? And so this is bizarre. There were people comparing and contrasting Daniel Penny and this dude.
Yeah.
And here's the comparison. They're both 26 years old. That's it.
Yeah.
After that, there's no comparison. I find it really bizarre when people kind of romanticize these people. There's got to be a term for that. Is there some sort of pathology that describes why people do this? I don't get it. But as you pointed out, the good news. So Daniel Penny is unanimously, he's acquitted. And all the BLM people came out and said all the awful things they said, which was amazing to me. But unlike 2020, in my hometown of Minneapolis, we did not see the big protests and the demonstrations that I think that BLM really wanted. So I do get the sense maybe that we're starting to turn, that the fever on that has broken a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, BLM ran out of black people.
They did?
Did you not see the march? It was just like white liberals and one brother looking for the subway.
And what do you think it is this case, or do you think it's just that the air has run out of the BLM movement?
You can only piss down our backs so long and tell us the rain. Eventually, we're going to go, that's not rain. Americans just got tired of it. You can't group us anymore. And the unintentional thing of this administration is we all felt the hurt together. We all felt the electric bills. We all felt the misjustice. We all said, like, wait, they're charging him for a crime that doesn't exist yet? That resonated with everyone. But nothing's ever going to stop the keyboard cowboys. It's so easy to be like, yeah, I got killed, because they're not affected by it. It sounds cool. They get likes. They get attention. But if they were actually going to walk up to say to somebody's face, like, oh, yeah, I'm glad he got shot. If you said that, and there's consequences. So on these online it's nothing new. They all talk tough on their little keyboards and say, oh, I'm glad he got. But show me what was tough about him. He shot this dude in the back. And I'm sorry, there's never been a time in history where anybody said shooting a guy in the back is brave. It's literally the most cowardly thing you do. He didn't turn him around and face him and all this other things that they try to make this guy out to be. he shot somebody in the back in cold blood. Period. There's nothing about him that's honorable. But because he gets on, because he's good, and we see this all the time. If somebody's good looking, especially, you know how lonely people are if they're willing to want to go on a date or fantasize against a guy who would shoot you in the back. That says more about them than it does anybody else. The problem is we should stop echoing it. We should literally, when those people do that stuff, you should just block them and move on because their voice does not matter. They're not in the game.
Yeah. Lou Perez, did you, I want to make a, kind of put a line between the people who are talking about him being good looking and then the people who are justifying his actions. They're saying, like, the way Liz Warren, I'm surprised that somebody, someone who's such a prominent figure that she comes out and says you can only push people so far. And then she says, we're not advocating violence. But it kind of sounds like she's approaching that line, right?
Yeah, it's a really cynical move because in a way, it's like, is she trying to kind of protect herself? Because when you really get, dig into the details about, the healthcare system, look, incentives are there due to regulations, government regulations and policies and rule makers. So if somebody were going to take the assassin, way, there's going to be insane amount of bloodshed because you have a whole industry that's, that has a lot of powerful people behind it.
Yeah.
It is really, it is gross. I hate to see it. And you're right. When it comes down to like the stuff you can get away with if you're good looking, right? In the 80s, John Hinckley Jr. tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan to get Jodie Foster. And it didn't work because he's not good looking and Jodie Foster is gay. So
he's had a lot of hurdles, didn't he?
Yeah. A lot. He had to get over a lot. And I'm really upset too because I think this guy has a manifesto, right? And it just shows like the state of like publishing that we're in, where it's so hard to get people to read your books that you will go to insane lengths. And just so everyone knows, I have a manifesto.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. Don't push me too far.
Yes. Okay, Kat. On the Daniel Penny thing, you're seeing a lot of people. I only had one reaction there, but there are people out there. It wasn't just the BLM people standing on the steps of the courthouse. There are people out there now, and if you listen to talk radio, left-wing talk radio, it's not all left-wingers, but there are people that are trying to take the Daniel Penny thing and turn it into what was Ferguson, or what was, their heyday seems to be over.
So what I think is that, to me, it seems impossible that anybody would actually believe that Daniel Penny was a racist man out for blood. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like if you know the facts of what happened, then you could have no other opinion other than the fact that this man does not belong in prison, right? The fact that if you were on that subway car, you would have also been afraid. The fact that it wasn't just white people helping him restrain the guy, all the things that all of us here know, right? But I think that perhaps these people heard something about it and they had their worldview already set and they're like, okay, well, I think it must be this because that's what I've already decided things are. And they don't want to, it's the sunken cost fallacy. They don't want to go back on it because I don't know how anyone could possibly think that at this point. Yeah. I really don't know how anybody could be honest and know all the facts and possibly think that at this point. To me, I honestly just don't even really believe it. Maybe that they're being willfully obtuse and haven't looked into it anymore, or they're trying to twist their brain into some kind of pretzel rather than admit that maybe they were wrong or this wasn't what they assumed it was, because it's impossible to look at the facts of what happened here and have any other conclusion except the one that was reached.
Although you got to follow the money too, like the father of this guy. Now he filed a civil suit.
Well,
and to say that this shouldn't have. I shouldn't be going through this. My son didn't have to die. Did he even know his son? This father of this man. This is a homeless guy with schizophrenia. I don't think the father was anywhere in his life.
Real quick, if you want to go with the racist line, if a racist man walked on a subway and saw a black man threaten to kill more black people, he would just say, well, go ahead, and where's the popcorn?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is a good day for me.
Exactly.
It
good
just
point.
makes no sense.
And this guy stepped up, and then, he suffered the consequences. But he said if he could do it again, he would do the same thing. Before we go, I'll be appearing this weekend at Bananas in New Jersey. Tickets available at tomshillue.com. And I'm going to be touring with Greg Gutfeld. Heard of him? Next year. And you'll have the opportunity for a live meet and greet with me, Tom Shillue, at select dates. Go to ggutfeld.com for tickets. And up next, we elected the dawn, but the lawfare goes on.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.